Okay, let's dive in. Today, we're wrestling with one of those questions that might just redefine how you see everything. Are you truly living, or are you maybe just existing?
It sounds simple, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Almost, maybe cliché. But as our source material shows, the distinction is, well, profound. We're unpacking insights from a talk given by S.B. Keshava Swami in Perth recently.
Yeah, and he's focusing specifically on how ancient wisdom addresses, life's most fundamental inquiries.
Exactly. This isn't about finding some quick fix answer. It's more about exploring a framework for understanding these deep questions.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is really to walk through that framework he presents and see how wisdom from millennia ago offers some, well, surprisingly practical clarity for life today.
And the speaker, he kicks things off with a quote that really grabbed you. It's from Benjamin Franklin, apparently.
Oh, yeah. What's the quote?
Some people die at 25, but they're not buried till they're 75.
Oof, wow. That's a real gut punch, isn't it?
It really is.
It forces you to confront this idea of a life where the vitality, maybe the curiosity, that aliveness just fades.
Yeah.
Long before the physical body does.
It does. And the speaker himself, his own path, kind of reflects this journey of seeking something more. He started out conventionally enough.
How so?
Studied information management at UCL, worked in the corporate world for a bit.
Okay, yeah. A path many of us can relate to, right? Chasing career goals, following the expected trajectory.
Absolutely. But then, when he was 21, he took a 6-month journey to India. And that experience, it seems, shifted his perspective entirely.
And that led to...
Led him to dedicate the last 25 years of his life as a monk.
Wow. But what I appreciate from what you're saying is he presents his findings not as some, ultimate authority who knows it all.
No, not at all. He's more like someone sharing wisdom he's gathered from sages on his own journey.
Right.
Like a guide sharing a map he found that actually works.
I like that. And the core question he puts on the table is precisely that Benjamin Franklin idea. Are you living or just existing?
Right. And he emphasizes this isn't a checkbox you tick off once. It's a question to revisit, maybe perpetually ask yourself throughout life.
Thinking about that Franklin quote again, the audience there in Perth, they apparently brainstormed a list of things that might die by 25.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Things like hope, Or maybe that boundless curiosity you have as a kid, a sense of inherent purpose, that feeling of freedom. Even things like patience or innocence.
Yeah, that makes sense. It speaks to the way life, or perhaps just the conventional path of existing, can kind of dull those qualities. We stop questioning things.
Stop exploring just for the sake of it.
Exactly. And he has this brilliant line on this. The most dangerous phrase in the English language, he suggests.
Let me guess. Because I said so.
No, close though. It's, we've always done it this way.
Ah, okay, I see. Because that phrase just shuts down questioning, right?
Completely. It's the total opposite of curiosity.
Yeah.
If you stop questioning why things are done, why you're doing what you're doing, you risk just staying on that path of existing.
Which brings us neatly to the speaker's core argument, I suppose. That questioning isn't just helpful, it's like a superpower.
Yes, precisely. He brings in Einstein's famous quote here.
Which one?
Never stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. It's not just about finding answers, it's about the state of inquiry itself.
And this idea, it's woven into some of the oldest wisdom traditions too, isn't it? He points to Vedanta, ancient Indian philosophy.
That's right. The very first aphorism, Athato Brahma Jigyasa.
Which means?
Basically, now that you have the human form of life, you have the ability to ask questions.
Wow. So it suggests that this capacity for deep questioning is fundamental to being human. Maybe even our defining feature.
Could be. It's maybe what distinguishes living from just biological existence.
And the audience there, they certainly had some deep questions for him.
Like what kind of things?
Oh, the big ones, Why am I here existentially? Is there free will? Is there more beyond this world? Who am I, truly? How can I become more conscious? Does God love me? Why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah, the classic fundamental questions. And the speaker notes, so many people avoid asking these because they assume maybe that there are no real answers.
But the wisdom keepers, like Einstein and these sages, they disagree.
Completely. They say the act of asking itself, that is the path to wisdom.
Which leads us to the speaker's central hypothesis, his framework. He suggests there are 5 root questions, and here's the bold claim.
Go on.
If you can answer these 5, you basically hold the key to answering any other question in life.
Wow. That's quite a claim, like finding the master key for everything.
Exactly. So here are the 5 he proposes. First, who am I?
Okay.
Second, where am I?
Right.
Third, why am I here?
Makes sense.
Fourth, how long am I here for?
Mm.
And fifth, is there something beyond? And, if so, what is beyond?
Who, where, why, how long, and beyond.
Yeah.
Okay. He posits that these five, when you really understand them deeply, they provide the foundational lens. Everything else just falls into place.
So, okay, where do we find these answers then? He directs us to this ancient text, often called the essence of the Vedas,
Yeah.
the Bhagavad Gita.
Right. And he uses that beautiful analogy to explain its place.
Oh, the forest one.
Yeah. Imagine the vast Vedic scriptures like a huge forest. The Shruti scriptures are maybe the trees in that forest.
Okay.
The Upanishads are like the flowers blooming on those trees.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bhagavad Gita, it's the garland woven from those absolute choicest flowers.
I love that. It makes something potentially intimidating feel much more approachable. Distilled wisdom.
Exactly. Accessible. And he sets the scene for us. 5,000 years ago, a battlefield, massive war about to begin. You have Krishna acting as the charioteer.
And Arjuna, the great warrior.
And right at that critical moment, Arjuna just stops the chariot. She refuses to fight until he understands why.
Why he's there, what happiness really is, success, purpose.
He stops to ask the fundamental questions. Right there.
So he embodies that superpower of questioning we were talking about.
Shy.
Freezing time on a battlefield to figure out if he's truly living or just existing in his role.
Precisely. And the conversation that follows between Krishna and Arjuna, prompted by these questions, that is the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God.
And it's only 700 verses, you said. Surprisingly short.
Yeah, about 45 minutes to recite, apparently. But it's presented as nothing less than a blueprint for the universe. Originally in Sanskrit, of course.
And the speaker draws heavily on the translation by Bhaktivedanta Swami, which is widely respected.
Yes. And here's where the framework really connects. The speaker shows how his 5 root questions align perfectly with the 5 core topics the Bhagavad Gita discusses.
Okay, let's link them up then. First question, who am I?
The Gita's answer centers on Atman, the soul. It tells us our deepest identity isn't our temporary body, or even our changing mind and personality. Although understanding those is kind of a first step.
How so?
Well, knowing your unique nature helps you avoid just copying others or, living someone else's goals. Understand your specific makeup first.
Right, get that initial identity clear. But then the spiritual identity, the Atman, is deeper.
Oh, much deeper. The soul is described as eternal, unchanging, actually full of knowledge and bliss inherently. He used a science analogy, like energy.
Can't be created or destroyed.
Exactly. Just transformed. So this life, it isn't the whole book. It's just one chapter for the soul. And death isn't a full stop.
It's like a comma, a gateway.
A comma, transition to the next chapter. Yes.
That really reframes death, doesn't it? From an ending to just a transition.
If we are the soul and the soul is eternal, how does that shift our perspective on daily struggles, relationships, achievements?
Well, it suggests that what we often get so caught up in these temporary roles, possessions, even our physical health, they're important for this chapter, sure, but they aren't who we fundamentally are. The struggle often comes from identifying too strongly with the temporary, thinking it's permanent. Knowing about the soul, the Atman, is the starting point for maybe a bit of detachment and finding a more lasting happiness.
Okay, makes sense. Question 2 then. Where am I?
The Gita describes our current location as Prakriti. That's the material world, or nature. Ah, the stage analogy comes in here, right? Shakespeare.
Yeah. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players.
So we're just playing roles.
Exactly. This world is like a cosmic theater. We take on roles, parent, professional, friend, enemy, whatever, in this temporary play. But the speaker emphasizes this stage. It isn't our permanent home.
Okay.
As spiritual beings, as Atman, we have this natural yearning for a different kind of reality, one that's, eternal and full of that bliss we mentioned.
That resonates with that survey he mentioned, doesn't it? The top ways people relax or escape.
Sleeping, holidays, intoxication, movies.
They're all forms of escape.
They are. Escape from this stage, from this reality. Why are we constantly seeking escape? It kind of points to the fact that this world, by its very nature, just can't fulfill our deepest longings.
Which is where that C.S. Lewis quote fits in.
Precisely. If I find in myself a desire which no experience of this world can fulfill, I must conclude I was made for another world.
Wow. So the very fact that we feel restless here, that we're always seeking something more, is actually evidence that this isn't our true home.
That's the idea. This world provides the stage for certain lessons, definitely, but it's not the place where the soul finds ultimate lasting satisfaction.
Okay. Third question. Why am I here?
The answer here is karma. The law of action and reaction.
Ah, the karma restaurant
Actu-
analogy.
That's the one. No menu, you get what you deserve. Every action, every thought, every word,
Yeah.
it all has consequences. And those consequences shape our present experiences.
So everything that happens to us is a result of past actions. Nothing is just random.
According to this wisdom, yeah. Nothing comes to you by chance. Every event, every person in your life, every challenge, every joy, they're all karmic reactions. But they're designed to teach you something.
Teach you.
Yeah, to help you grow, to help you move towards your ultimate potential. This world is like a cosmic university, and life's experiences are the lessons, the curriculum.
Okay, hold on. That's a massive shift in perspective. So instead of the usual reaction, like, why is this happening to me? How does this make me feel?
The spiritual question becomes,
Why is this happening for me? What am I meant to learn from this?
exactly. And if you can genuinely adopt that perspective, imagine the resilience you gain, the wisdom. Every challenge becomes an opportunity for growth. Every person, a potential teacher.
It imbues everything with purpose, takes you away from feeling like just a victim of circumstances.
Right.
But how do you actually do that? In the moment, I mean. When something painful or frustrating happens, it's so instinctual to react emotionally. How do you train yourself to pause and ask, okay, what's the lesson here instead?
Yeah, that's the practice, isn't it? The speaker implies it takes conscious effort, and understanding this framework helps. It's about stepping back, just for a second, from that immediate emotional hit and remembering the bigger picture.
The I am a soul in a purposeful universe picture.
Right. And this is a lesson for my growth. It's definitely not easy, but consistently applying this understanding helps you gain that little bit of distance. It's about building a different mental habit, I guess.
That makes sense. It's a skill you develop over time. Okay, question 4. How long am I here for?
The Gita speaks about kala, time. And time in this material world, well, it's a force of destruction and change.
Yeah, it erodes health, alters relationships, fortunes change, everything temporary is subject to it.
Exactly. And the transience, that can be painful. We get attached to things, people, situations, and then time inevitably takes them away or changes them.
It is painful.
It is. But here's the really profound insight from the Gita that the speaker shared. Time doesn't just take things from you. Time takes away everything that is not you.
Oh, say that again.
Time takes away everything that is not you. It's constantly stripping away the temporary layers, the roles, the possessions, the physical form itself to help you understand who you really are. That eternal self, the Atman.
So time is painful, yes, but it's also revealing. It forces a confrontation with what's temporary versus what might be permanent.
Precisely. That's why moments where we face temporariness head on, like hearing that Steve Jobs quote about death being life's change agent.
Or that guided meditation he mentioned, imagining your own funeral.
Yeah, those are so powerful. Thinking about how you want to be remembered, or Steve Jobs asking himself every morning, if today was the last day, would I be doing what I'm doing today?
Right.
Those exercises use the reality of limited time not to instill fear, but actually to empower. They force you to consider what truly matters deep down and align your actions today with your deepest values and purpose.
That to-be list he mentioned, not just the to-do list.
Exactly that.
Okay. Finally, the 5th question. Is there something beyond?
And the Gita addresses this with Isvara. That's the concept of divinity, or God. This speaks directly to that inherent human longing for something more, that desire for eternal connection that C.S. Lewis also pointed towards.
And he mentioned the idea of one God, but known by many names.
Yeah, like the sun analogy. The sun is one, but different languages have different names for it, right? And people in different places see it at different times.
Yeah.
The underlying reality is one, but it's perceived in many ways.
And crucially, this divinity, this Isvara, isn't just some abstract concept or, a figure you only deal with after you die.
No, absolutely not. The speaker really emphasizes, drawing from the Gita, that divinity is alive, attentive, personal even, and actually desires to interact with us now.
How?
Well, the Gita is presented as a kind of spiritual science. It offers a hypothesis, these fundamental truths about reality we've been discussing, and then it offers tools.
Tools like?
Practices like meditation, different forms of yoga, understanding these principles deeply. And the idea is, if you apply the tools, if you do the experiment, you can begin to perceive and experience that connection with divinity for yourself.
So it's testable, in a way. You apply the principles and see if your consciousness, your perception of reality, actually changes.
That's the idea. It's not about blind faith. It's faith that grows from a willingness to actually experiment with the practices.
Okay. So bringing it all together then, the speaker's blueprint based on the Gita is this. We are eternal souls, Atman,
Right.
currently navigating a temporary material world, prakriti,
Yeah.
experiencing actions and reactions, karma, that are actually designed to elevate our consciousness, all within a limited framework of time, kala.
Okay.
And there is a higher reality, a source of connection beyond this material realm, Isvar.
That's it. That's the blueprint. And his central hypothesis is that truly internalizing this and trying to live from this understanding, that's what shifts you.
Shifts you from merely existing, going through the motions based on temporary identities and goals to truly living a life imbued with real purpose and meaning.
Exactly, because if you don't grasp this blueprint, even great material achievements might feel hollow or temporary at best. You might still feel like you're just existing.
Right. So this deep dive into these 5 questions and the Gita's framework provides the context needed for, well, authentic living.
Yeah. And the talk didn't just stop at the theory. There was a great Q&A section, too, where the speaker applied this framework to really practical questions people have today.
Oh, good. Like what? Finding purpose came up, didn't it? Dharma.
Yes, a big one. He clarified that purpose, or dharma, isn't usually this single lightning bolt thing you find once. It's something you kind of refine daily.
Daily. How?
Well, he mentioned 2 types. There's svadharma, that's like your unique contribution, your occupation maybe based on your nature and talents.
Okay.
And then there's sanatana dharma, that's your eternal spiritual purpose as a soul, which is common to everyone.
So how do you figure out your svadharma, your unique contribution, in practical terms?
Good question. He suggested a few things. Really analyzing your personality and your natural talents, maybe seeking feedback from trusted friends who know you well, studying wisdom texts like the Gita for guidance, and honestly, just trying different things out. See what aligns, what feels purposeful. It's an active discovery process.
Makes sense. What about desire? That's another big topic in spiritual circles. Wisdom traditions often talk about overcoming desire. Can we actually be desireless?
He said basically no. The soul's nature is to desire. The goal isn't to kill desire that's maybe impossible or unnatural. It's to spiritualize it.
Spiritualize desire. How?
So instead of giving up your job or your family, for example, you shift the motivation behind it. You work not just for personal gain, but maybe to use your resources and skills in service of something higher.
Okay.
You aim for desires driven more by love, by connection, by contribution, rather than just selfish acquisition or enjoyment.
So redirecting the energy of desire towards a higher purpose, that feels more achievable.
Right. And what about overthinking and procrastination? I mean, who doesn't struggle with that sometimes?
Tell me about it. What did he say?
He pointed to maybe 3 common root causes. 1, not having a clear, deep why for what you're trying to do.
Okay, lack of motivation.
2, lacking a concrete step-by-step plan to actually get there.
Feeling overwhelmed.
And 3, not having enough supportive association,
Yeah.
people around you who uplift and encourage you, who share similar values.
Lack of support. Makes sense. And the solutions.
They aligned perfectly with those roots. Visualization to clarify that deep why, the goal. Orientation to create the practical plan. And association to consciously seek out supportive people and environments.
VOA, visualization, orientation, association.
Practical.
Very practical.
Well, good.
Derived from that deeper understanding of how the mind works and our need for connection.
Someone also asked about integrating their spiritual life with their job, right? How do you avoid that feeling of compartmentalizing, like, this is my work life, this is my spiritual life? Yeah, great question. His advice was basically to stop seeing your job just as a way to earn money. See it as part of your spiritual path.
How, though? Some jobs seem pretty mundane.
Find ways, even small ways, to combine your passion and expertise with service or spiritual connection within your work. Make it an expression of your unique contribution, your svadharma, that also somehow supports your ultimate purpose, your sanatana dharma.
So it transforms work from just existing from 9 to 5 into something purposeful.
Exactly. Part of your living.
There's a really interesting question, too, about knowing when you've actually learned a karmic lesson. How do you recognize that breakthrough moment?
Yeah, that's tricky. He said, essentially, you'll know because the same situation or a similar one won't cause you the same kind of suffering or reaction next time.
Oh.
You start to see the purpose in it. You understand the lesson it was meant to teach you. You become less shaken by the inevitable ups and downs of life because you genuinely grasp that they're part of this larger purposeful process for your growth.
You mentioned free will earlier, and someone asked about that directly. Do we actually have it?
Yes, definitely. He stressed that point. Without free will, the power to make choices, decisions, life would be, well, meaningless, wouldn't it?
Mm.
We absolutely have volition.
Okay, but we don't control the outcome. Is that right?
That's the nuance, exactly.
Mm.
Our choices are free, but the results of those choices are influenced by a bunch of factors. Our past karma being a big one, and ultimately, according to the Gita, by divine supervision or arrangement.
Mm.
So the Gita teaches that making decisions aligned with wisdom and spiritual principles, that's the key to finding peace, regardless of the outcome. Because you acted in harmony with the universe's underlying purpose.
That's a subtle but powerful distinction. We choose our actions, but the universe responds based on complex factors, including our past and maybe a higher plan, takes the pressure off trying to control everything.
Totally. Puts the focus back on making the right internal choices, the right effort.
There was also a question that gets right to the heart of this whole spiritual blueprint. If the spiritual world is supposed to be this place of eternal bliss, why would a soul ever leave it in the first place?
Right, the million-dollar question. Drawing on commentaries on the Gita, he explained it comes down again to that intrinsic free will of the soul.
Free will again.
Free will includes the option to explore reality outside of that direct, loving spiritual connection. It's not necessarily born from dissatisfaction, maybe more from curiosity or a desire for independent experience.
Okay.
But that choice, once made, leads to implication, entanglement in the material world, like willingly stepping into a really complex web.
Curiosity leading to entanglement. Interesting. What about modern mental health challenges? Things like feeling super distracted, overwhelmed, maybe even what people describe as ADHD.
Yeah, he framed this as a pretty universal challenge today, and it's definitely exacerbated by our environment.
How's that?
Just the sheer volume of information, the unnatural pace of life. Our brains are constantly processing an immense amount of data. So he suggested that everyone, to some degree, struggles with managing the mind's restlessness and emotional fluctuations.
So struggling with focus or anxiety isn't just some personal feeling.
Not at all, according to this perspective. It's more like a condition of modern existence for many. But the solutions offered by these wisdom traditions, he argued, are universal tools.
Like what specifically?
Lifestyle choices that support mental clarity, definitely. Spiritual practices like meditation or chanting to actually train the mind. And the spiritual wisdom itself, understanding karma, Atman, Kala, provides context and helps us process emotions rather than be overwhelmed by them. These are applicable to anyone seeking greater mental control and peace.
Gratitude came up as well. How do we cultivate genuine gratitude, not just saying thank you?
He called gratitude the mother of all good qualities, which I liked. The path to it, he suggested, involves really conscious reflection, looking back at your life's journey, acknowledging how much you've actually been given, how many things had to go right for you to even be here.
So it's about correcting that tendency we have to focus on what we lack and kind of undervalue what we already have.
Exactly. But then he added another layer. Deeper gratitude, he said, comes from reciprocation.
Reciprocation.
Yeah. When you feel truly grateful for what you've received, it naturally sparks this desire to give back, to contribute in some way. And that act of giving, of service, actually makes the feeling of gratitude even more tangible and profound.
That makes sense. Giving completes the circle.
Oh.
Okay, one last area from the Q&A. How can we encourage others spiritually? If we find this stuff helpful, we often want to share it.
Right. And his answer was beautiful, really simple. Your own character.
Or a character.
Yeah. Your consciousness, your compassion, your integrity, that is the most powerful advertisement for any spiritual path. Live the principles yourself. Demonstrate the positive effects in your own life, how you handle things. He quoted St. Francis of Assisi.
What was the quote?
Something like, I preach every day, and now and again I say something.
Actions speak louder than words.
Totally. And related to that, on doing spirituality for others, like service, he cited the poet Tagore.
Tagore.
Yeah. I dreamt that life was joy. I awoke to find that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy.
Wow, so a life centered purely on I, me, mine is inherently limited, maybe even boring.
That's the idea. Contributing to others, whether it's sharing wisdom, helping solve practical problems, just bringing some joy, or helping others connect with their own spiritual nature, that automatically brings spiritual insight and deep joy back to you.
So living means selflessness, expressing love through service.
It seems to be a core part of it. It's not just about what you can gain spiritually for yourself, but how you can be an instrument, a channel of something higher for the benefit of others, too.
This whole deep dive, then, into the speaker's talk, drawing so heavily from the Bhagavad Gita, it offers this really powerful connection, doesn't it, between those 5 fundamental questions every human seems to grapple with and this ancient blueprint for reality.
Yeah, it really provides a framework, a way to understand life and maybe make that conscious shift from merely existing to truly living.
It definitely challenges us, challenges you listening, to actively examine your own life through this lens. Are you asking the fundamental questions? Are you living in alignment with a deeper understanding of who you are, where you are, and why?
It's a lot to think about.
It is. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. If we really embrace this idea from the talk, that everything that happens is for a reason, that it's a lesson meant to help us grow, what do you think is the biggest lesson life is trying to teach you right now?
That's a deep one. Definitely something to reflect on. Take some time, maybe, to consider these ideas in your own life.